Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. This is Tisha McDonald here, Alternatives Beauty Studio.
And Tanika Gillar, I am naturally yours. Let me just turn on my notifications because we got a great topic tonight. We got a special guest here. I'm excited. Today was a great day, and tonight is going to be even better. We're going to be talking about a topic that's close to Tisha because, I don't know nothing about funeral services or mortuary science or anything like that. So we're going to talk to Tisha, and she has a special guest that she's going to introduce that's joining us tonight so that we could be prepared. We need to be prepared, you guys. We need to be prepared. So anyway, Tisha.
Hey, yes. So I am so glad. I already see 4 people looking at us, but I just want to introduce Chad before bringing him on. I want to say I graduated. Oh, we already got a comment. Let's see. Oh, hey, hi, Michelle. How you doing, Michelle? So a lot of you guys may know or may not know, I graduated funeral service a year and a half ago. I haven't done my internship or anything like that, but this was my embalming teacher. He was so patient with me. I remember the first day going behind in the back room, I'll say that. He had to hold my hand, literally hold my hand. And when we did our first autopsy body, he gave me time because it took me a minute to do what he asked me to do. And I won't go into much detail with that because I don't want to freak anybody out. But when you talk about the patience of Job, he has it. So I'm going to introduce Chad Hamman, my embalming teacher, funeral director. Here he is. How you doing, Chad?
Good. I don't have any patience, so I don't know where you came up with that. For that, I can tell you that.
Well, I want to say welcome to the Twin
tonight. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. Glad to be on.
All right, Chad.
All right. So my question, because I know Tisha knows you very well, could you give us some background on you? How long have you been in the business? What made you want to go into mortuary science? Let's start there.
Sure. My freshman year in high school, my boss, Dave Heinzelman, asked me at church one day if I was looking for some summer work. I said, sure. I was young, make a couple bucks for the summer, playing a lot of baseball, but he wanted a guardrail painted at the funeral home, which I've painted more than once since then. But and that's when I started. I was young, 15 maybe.
Wow.
And I got more involved, mowing the grass at the funeral home, washing the cars, stuff like that. And as I got older, maybe my junior year in high school, I started in the summer helping do transfers, removals of decedents from homes. I would go with my boss just as an extra hand. I was so green. My mother would get up at night and help me get dressed because I didn't know how to tie a tie or anything. I was really young, and but it worked. Went to school. I went right from Saucon Valley High School right to Northampton, which was a really easy transformation because it's right in the same county. So I went to college at county rates, which was very inexpensive. I lived at home, so I didn't have that expense as well. So this year's my 20th year being a licensed funeral. Well, yeah, it's been 20 years. I got in 2001, so it's been 20 years already that I got my license. So yeah, it goes fast.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
I don't know. Do you have any children?
I have 2. I have a girl, Ellie, she's 13, and I have a boy, Drew, he's 9.
Do you think that they'll go into the funeral service?
I don't think so. It's way too early to tell.
Right.
I don't force them. Some people call it a calling. I don't know. It takes a special person. I wouldn't want to force someone into something they don't want to do.
Absolutely. I was going to say that it takes a special person. When Tisha was saying that you had to hold her hand and help her go in, for her first day with the autopsy, it does take a special person to care for the dead. I'm easy with taking care of the living, which I don't like doing either, but it's really something else to take care of a person once they're deceased, you know. So I do commend you for that.
Yeah, the kids understand what I do. You know, the phone goes off during the night. They know. They can tell you how. They ask me where the call is and stuff. They have it down sometimes how long I'm going to be gone. They know, they understand. But I don't know. They're way too young. I have no idea.
I just like to ask because sometimes you could see if your children are going to be, I wasn't going into nursing myself, it just happened that I went that route. But, because I saw my mom in nursing and she would tell us gory stories. So I never thought of myself going into that field. So you never know how it's going to turn around for your children. Okay.
Yeah, my son is very interested in the pet business we have, the pet crematory.
Okay.
He really likes pets and animals, so he's really asked a lot of questions about that. But like I said, he's only 9 years old, so.
Dad, you have a question, and the question is, what is the best part of your job?
I didn't hear. What was the what?
What is the best part of your job?
The best part.
How you doing, Trish?
I think the best part is helping families with closure. The most rewarding thing is restoring a deceased, I think, to a more natural appearance, not a sick appearance. I think that's the most satisfaction I get out of it, is helping people. But that's me. Some people, might find a different satisfaction in funeral service. But I think that's what I.
Well, you answered that. What's the most difficult part of your job?
I would say meeting with families that are dysfunctional, which is very common anymore. It's sad, but I think that's the hardest part. And I think I told them, at school, like I told Tisha, I said, you don't have to be scared of the dead. I always used to tell them the living are the ones that are going to give you more trouble, yeah. And I mean, you see that, you see the family dynamics. I think that's the hardest part anymore, is the dysfunction in families, and you kind of become the referee sometimes, and it's tough. It's real tough. And I think that's the hardest part.
I do have another question. With COVID, were you concerned that the virus still lived in the body? And actually, Sandra, I can kind of answer that a little bit for you. The virus does live in the body for what, 48 hours, Chad?
They don't know. They
don't know how long, but it does stay in the body.
They're not sure. They're still trying to figure that out. There's a very good embalmer from Indiana that has done some swabbing of the nose swab after embalming, and the results were kind of not sure. So they really don't have an answer yet. So we're treating as the virus is with the body the whole time. We don't know.
You have another question, Chad. Sorry, yeah. Nikki.
Good.
Keep it coming, guys. Keep it coming. How has the pandemic impacted your work?
Well, obviously the death rate is up. That has impacted everyone in funeral service, healthcare, anyone caring for people with COVID. I think a lot of people are exhausted. It's been almost a full year of this. I talk to my colleagues and everyone's like, I'm just exhausted. I mean, it's been a pace that we've never worked. We've had to help other states. Tisha and I were talking before we started, we were helping New Jersey, New York funeral directors during the beginning of this almost a year ago, calling us and needing help because the crematories up there were breaking down and they couldn't get technicians there to fix them. They don't have the crematories that can handle that volume. So there were a lot of things that were going on, and we had to step up and help our colleagues in other states. And say, hey, we're here to help you. But it got to the point that we had to, pass them on to other people too and say, you're going to have to try someone out more west in the state and maybe they can help you because we can't take any more. We can't help, we're maxed out, so, but we had to step up to the plate and help,
And we were talking earlier that one of my classmates, actually, she just posted that she just got back from California. She was helping out there because they needed funeral directors out there. So we always hear about the first responders, and it seems like a lot of people forget about the last responders. We are the last ones with the loved ones. And just like the nurses and the doctors and everybody was out of PPP, we were just talking about how the funeral parlors have been short of supplies as well.
Yes.
So we don't know about this disease.
Yeah, that was a big concern too. There was a shortage in body bags and PPE. There was a few months, the last month, there was a shortage in caskets for a little bit because I don't know if this is factual, but I think what happened was they took off for the Christmas holiday, and I think they gave them that extra week and New Year's off to give them a break and to keep the spread down in the factories, and they got behind. But that's getting better. But yes, there was a shortage. Our association, our local association, stepped up to the plate and got us stuff that we needed. I ran into the paint store right away, Sherwin-Williams, and got Tyvek suits and masks because we knew, we were going to get hit with this and we needed to have the proper stuff.
Again, you guys, you are joining Twinness, Tisha and Tanika McDonald. Tisha McDonald and Tanika Gillard. We have our special guest, Chad, on talking about, he's a funeral service director. Tisha graduated with her degree about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years. And we just want to hit on how the deaths have affected, how COVID has affected the death rate, and how we need to be preparing ourselves, not just for COVID, just in life, in general. So we want to say thank you again, Chad, Mr. Chad, for being here with us. I know you had a question, T.
Yeah, someone else asked another question. Are there people that have not been funeralized yet? That would be a yes.
What does she mean by that?
Not been buried yet? Have the bodies been mostly buried by now? Because before there was like stock on top.
Yeah, things got better by May last year. It was about 2 months, March and April last year were the busiest. Now the people might not have had the services, but the person was buried or the cremation took place, and they might be waiting to have a memorial service at a later date. A lot of families are waiting for that because of obviously the COVID restrictions. So, at the beginning of this, in Pennsylvania, and every state's different with laws, they shut us down that we actually had viewings outside, drive-by viewings for people because we couldn't allow anyone in the funeral home.
Right.
So we had to set up outside underneath their carport. People would drive by, pay their respects, and do things that way because there was no other option. And people obviously needed that viewing and stuff like that. They wanted to have that. So that was unique, something that we've never done. It's done a lot in the big cities. They have a drive-through window for security reasons. So it's nothing really new. It was new to us. So that was interesting. I don't want to go back there. I hope we don't go back to that. That was just.
What would you say, or how should we prepare for a funeral? I'm not sure if I'm wording that correctly. When should we get started with preparing ourselves? At what age?
Well, I think if you have children, I really think the first thing you need to do is get a will for if you have children, because if something would happen to you and your spouse, you want to give direction of where those children would go and who would be financially responsible for them. I think that would be the first thing. Writing your wishes down on paper so someone knows where that is, I think is the best thing you can do. That You don't have to go see a professional if you don't feel comfortable. But there's so many times as people doubt themselves during an arrangement. It's like, is that really what mom wanted? Is that really what dad wanted? And they doubt themselves. And so I think if you write your wishes down, I think that would be the best thing you can do for your family. So there's no guessing of, I want to be buried at this cemetery. I want to be cremated. I want this. I want that. You know, a simple writing your wishes down on paper. And I think that's a great thing. We did that in school. When I went to school, I don't know, Tisha, did you do that? They still do that, or?
No, we didn't do it.
Okay. Yeah, like that was one thing we had to do, is kind of like plan our own funeral back in the day. So I think that's a great thing, is writing your wishes down. And if you have kids under 18, I would definitely get a will, just so they're protected if something would happen to both of you.
Chad, I'm glad that you had mentioned that. And we have another question, by the way, in the chat. Our mom passed away in May. It wasn't COVID related, but my mom passed away in May. And a few years back, she had sent us for Christmas her "Do Not Resuscitate." She did not want, as she put it, she didn't want anybody stomping on her chest. So she did not want to be tubed up. So
Yeah.
she already knew if she was going, just let her go.
Yeah.
And she's always prepared us, since we were young, that she wasn't going to be here always, this, that, and the other. She always talked about death. So it wasn't something that was scary for us. Now, two out of the 5 kids were a little squeamish about hearing her talk about it. They didn't really want to talk about it. Her sister had passed away a few months before she did. And she called us all to a meeting. And right then and there, she showed us her casket. She had everything lined out. So May, when she passed away, she had her clothes already done, her plot, everything. It was a very smooth, simple. I said, that is the best gift that any parent can leave their children. There was no fighting or, over anything, because she left it just the way she wanted it,
Right.
And that is the best gift that you could give your children. So I totally agree.
Well, it eliminates a lot of stress.
It does.
You're grieving. You don't need that extra stress of, mom told me this. Nope, mom told me this. Nope, mom told me this. And then you have a big family, and then mom told everyone something different. You got to figure it out, and it just causes tension sometimes. And that's what I'm saying. If it's written down, that's the best thing you can do. If you want to go to see your local funeral director and go one step further,
yes,
that's even better. Prepaying a funeral, that's even the further step. A lot of people.
I was gonna tip on that. Yes, I was gonna tip on that. But let's answer this question, because I don't want to forget it. It's sitting here. Can you see it, Chad?
Yeah. Wow, that's a great question. I think there's a lot to be seen. I don't know.
How has it impacted you?
What was that?
We both asked the same thing.
How has it impacted you?
I think just physically and mentally draining. I don't care who you are. It's mentally and physically draining. You're dealing with grieving people that haven't seen their loved one maybe in a year, because they've been in a nursing home that's locked down. So now their mom dies. They're angry because they haven't seen her. They want to see her. So you do everything you can. So they kind of come to you in frustration because of this. And you have to try to ease their grief. So mentally and physically meaning the amount of volume. Mentally, you're dealing with, you're always dealing with grieving people, but you're dealing with people that this COVID's been unexpected death to their family. And, some families have lost multiple people in their family. There's many times we had couples that died during this. So, that's really rough on families to lose your parents in 1 week. I saw that a couple times. So that's just, it's unbelievable. It's almost like sometimes it's a dream. Like you think, this is just weird, you know? So, yeah.
It's not just people in the nursing home, it's people in the hospital, because you can't have family there to advocate for you. And if doctors and nurses are not giving you the proper care, that causes issues there too. I've heard too many stories from people, you know, whose loved one has been in the hospital and they're not getting the proper testing or the proper care, who end up, you know, dying in the hospital with the disease because there's no one there to advocate and speak on their behalf. And so it's kind of sad. It really is.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. We did death during the middle of the night. I don't know. It was early, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was at a nursing home, and it was silent, you know. And when we were going into these nursing homes, and still today, you know, we would have to put PPE on, go through a barrier, all this procedure to get in, take our temperature, sign a waiver. And so the one nurse on the way out, walking out with me, a hospice nurse, when I looked at her and said, wow, I've never heard it so quiet here. You know, and usually when you're in a nursing facility, you hear all the bells and whistles. It doesn't matter what time it is. You know, someone needs help. And she put her arm around me and she said, Chad, they all died. There's no one on this floor. And I was like, whoa, you know, whew, that hit me.
That hurt right there. That just hit me.
Yeah.
Wow. Woo, that's sad.
And the other thing that's sad too is like all those nurses and, you know, aides and all that were at these facilities risking their lives because we didn't know how bad this was. A lot of those people lost their jobs because the people are taking their loved ones home now. They're not really putting them in an institution or a facility because
The risk.
there. So they don't need all these caretakers at these facilities. So now these people worked overtime through all that pandemic, and now they found out that you have a job. You know, that's crazy too. But it's been crazy.
Yeah, this is going to be just off to the side just a little bit, and I will come right back to funeral services. I'm sorry, but it's the same with the facility that I work for. I work, you know, outside with people, and families are taking their family members home from the facilities so that they can watch them and make sure that they're okay, because it only takes one worker to have the COVID vaccine and bring it back into the nursing home or onto the floor in the hospital or into a residential place. One person outside can bring it in and affect the whole house. And so, you know, a lot of families I work with special needs adults. And so a lot of their families are taking them home and saying, hey, we're going to keep our loved one at the house, not at the residential location.
Yeah. Definitely. And the visiting nurses that do home care, they are so busy, they don't know which way to turn because of this. You know, they're exhausted. I mean, you know, the hours they work, they're on the road, they're going into people's houses. I mean, I feel for those ladies and men, you know, it's tough.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, again, you're watching The Twinist, and we are talking about funeral service. This is Tisha Tanika, and our special guest is Chad Hamman. He is a funeral director, and he was my embalming teacher. Let's get back into it. So, I don't know. That just was like a bomb right there with the whole floor being quiet. You know, so, you know, everybody's with the COVID deaths, but there's just natural deaths as well. And so the funeral business, the funeral homes are getting not just COVID patients, but they're getting, like my mom, she didn't die of COVID. She had a heart attack. So, you know, it's like double because you're also dealing with like car accidents and, you know, stuff like that, natural causes, as well as the COVID. And I think sometimes the public don't realize that it's not just COVID, it's the other deaths as well that the funeral homes have.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, guess who's here?
Oh, there it is. Oh boy.
I was just responding to her.
I didn't see what she said.
So I'm happy that y'all know her because I was just responding
This
to
is
her.
my actual teacher, my theory teacher.
Well, absolutely not. I'm making it all up, Patty. I'm making it all up. I know nothing.
I'm like, well, he's been a funeral. I'm sending her this long message. Yeah, he's been a funeral director for 20 years. I'm like, I'm happy y'all know her.
Well,
That was my
Patty
teacher.
taught at Northampton. Well, she still does at
The
Northampton.
best, hands down.
She's amazing.
Hands down.
She teaches 1,000 classes a day, and I don't know how she does it.
Me either.
She goes from one class to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. I just don't know how she does it. But
Let me ask,
but I love the sarcasm. I love the sarcasm.
Okay, but I know with everything going on, how do y'all have a high enrollment? Are people really registering for funeral services at this time? Okay.
now there's a shortage of funeral directors across the state.
Exactly why they need to be enrolling some.
Across the country. I mean, you go on to Facebook and look at these places, Texas, California, and we should go back to Anna Lynn. Anna Lynn was a student with Tisha. Anna Lynn, during this pandemic, the states were letting funeral directors from other states come in and help. Mm-hmm. So Anna Lynn, the company she works for, shipped it to New York for a while, and now she just got back from California. So to help, because there's a shortage. But there is a shortage nationally of funeral directors. And I think it's going to get worse because they keep saying that these baby boomers are going to die and the volume is going to increase. But there are so many ads for jobs. There are people looking for funeral directors all over. It's amazing that there's just a shortage.
Why you look like that, Tisha?
Because he's throwing on the guilt trip right there. There's such a shortage. Tisha, when you gonna take your test?
She's going back to take her test. That was part of the deal for this. There it is. 22.
Okay.
Most exciting job. Yep. Yeah. There's people looking all over for funeral directors right now. But
did they waive some of the restrictions? Like for PA, you have to have 35 embalmings, this, that, and other. Are they waiving some of that? At one point, I heard that they were not giving you credit or something like. I don't know. It was just rumor. So I don't know.
That would be a Patty question. I don't know. The only things they were waiving, like the other states, were like we could go into New York and help. And for some of the crematories, every state has their own rules and regulations. I know California just recently waived all the crematory rules out there, so they can run 24/7. Because I don't think they could cremate at night out there. But I mean, might be wrong on that.
That's a lot.
Well, they have no choice. They have to. It's that much volume. I hear 2 months is the waiting period. So
2 months for cremation?
And burial, I heard. I mean, this is the stuff I read on the funeral stuff on Facebook and stuff. So I can't say it's factual, but I know Texas, they're looking for help down there too. It's everywhere. I mean, if you need to go back and take your test. We need people like you.
So we have it on both ends of the spectrum. We have it with nursing and we have it with death. So shortage of nurses are getting burnt out, tired, and saying, hey, forget it. Others are like, hey, I'm going to go make this money while I can. The funeral services is like, hey, we short here too. We can't get all of this done. So people, if y'all are listening and catching the replay, thank you. Think about funeral services as an option.
Yeah, if you like science, most of the science classes and stuff like that at school, you took with the nurses, you took with the hygienists. It's the same classes. So.
I have to tell you, Chad, I looked at some of Tisha's books when I came to visit, and that's not something I would go into personally. And I know Tisha.
Yeah, I couldn't do your job, trust me. So, it's a special person to be a nurse, too. I don't know. I couldn't do that.
It takes a special person to deal with the dead, because I know once a patient passes away, I'm not even going past that room. I'm going the opposite way. I don't want to see it or even know that the body is there.
Well, maybe we should send you to a funeral service school.
And that is the
No.
twinness. We're totally opposite. Everybody seems to think that we have so much in common, but we have so many things that's not common. We don't share in common.
Well,
So,
I have a younger
yes,
brother who's the same way.
same way.
Yeah, opposite, total opposite of me. So,
All right. Is there any other questions? I have nothing in the comments right now, but I want to say thank you for watching the Twinness. We still have some time. If you have any other questions that you need to ask Chad, why do you think that people are so squeamish about talking about that?
I have no idea. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know.
Was the fear of the unknown, or I thought always like people are scared to know what happens behind the scenes, and it's really not as bad as what people
Yeah,
may assume.
no, I don't think it's that. I don't know. I just think people fear death probably,
Fear of death.
or had a bad experience. You know, that could be part of it as well.
Oh, thank you, Patty. That is great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Glad she signed on.
Also,
Yeah.
oh, we have a question. Do schools ever reach out during career days?
Yes, I used to go to the Catholic school. Would have me every year come into the fifth graders, and I would do a career day. I've done a couple
That's
of times.
scary for a fifth grader. I would be scared as a fifth grader.
No, you know what? The kids are great. I did it. I do like a slideshow of different things, and the kids are great. And the time goes so fast because they have 1,000 questions, and
Okay.
they have them all lined up ready for you. You know, and I really enjoy that. And I take the cosmetic kit along and show them stuff, and um, it's always a neat experience. Really.
That's what I found scary as a kid. Now, we've dealt with death a lot, my sister and I. My mom, all right, my stepfather died when we were 11 or so. Then my mom died a year later at 12. And then my natural father died at 13. Everybody died a year apart from each other. So 3 deaths in 3 years in a row. So we saw death early. But whenever
I think
you
that's a
saw,
big help though when you see it early, because I
yes,
think the people that don't see it till their 20s struggle a lot more. It's a
yes,
natural thing. You know, you bring the family to the hospital to see the baby born. Why don't you bring the family to the funeral home? That's my feeling about it. The kids that are around death as young age seem to be able to deal with it better as they get older because they've been around it. It's been a natural experience. You know,
yes.
some of these people, they haven't seen a death in their family until they hit their 20s. They see it's a lot different. It's a lot different. So,
Yes, that is so true. I totally agree. So when I decided to go into this field, a lot of people would ask, why are you going into funeral service? Now, to be honest, I wasn't going into funeral service to go into funeral service, just to be honest. I wanted to go in New York City, they have a course called cosmetician. So I wanted to be a cosmetician. That's it. When I got to Northampton, however, there was no such thing as cosmetician.
right.
She froze.
He froze.
You had me?
You're frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm frozen? Am I?
Yes. You're frozen.
Okay.
See?
Can you hear
There she
me?
Well,
is.
I'll tell the story. Yes.
Go ahead, tell the story because I
Back
might
up
freeze
from the
again.
camera. Back up from the camera a little. There you go. Go ahead. Now talk.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's I didn't want to go for that, but when I got to Northampton, I had to take the whole course. So that's what made me go into funeral service. Not that that's what I wanted to do, but I also felt like if I can make up the living, I don't have a problem making up the dead. And prior to this, I had done a funeral for a baby. And when I did the baby, it was my godson. I didn't feel a way going in the back and taking care of him. His mom asked me to do his hair, to braid it. And so I went to the back and I braided his hair. And then at the end of the service, she asked me if I could cut 3 of his braids off. And to this day, I have two of the braids, mine and hers, and the grandparents got the third braid. But I never felt fear of being with the dead. And I think, like what Chad was saying, the earlier you see death, the easier it becomes, or whatever. And like my children, they're not scared to go to a funeral. They're not scared of dead bodies. They've been to several funerals. So they're not really impacted like if you lost someone later on in life,
Yeah, I've seen that through my career. People bring a child into the funeral home and they're like, "Can you watch my child so I can go up to the viewing?" I'm sure I do that, but I really would like to say, take him up there with you. This is going to be part of life. Just take him up there with you. Some people are like, "Oh, I'm going to keep my kids at home. They can't come." I don't think that's a good thing, but
I think it's a disservice because losing a pet is different than losing a human life. You losing a goldfish is not the same thing as losing grandma.
correct.
So I don't know. But, there was this question I was asked privately. And my husband and I, we have this debate all the time. So I said that I would like to be cremated. Okay. But my husband wants to be embalmed. So I said, well, I could be cremated and still buried with you, but he wants us both to be embalmed. So that's like an ongoing debate in my household. So if my kids ask me, Mom, what do you want? I want to be cremated, but Dad wants us to be embalmed. So that's like a family dynamic here.
Well, I need to know.
Cremation.
What you say, Chad?
You can have the viewing prior to the cremation.
Yes.
Then you both get what you want.
True indeed, and I want to be buried. There's no need in holding the ashes because then when my great has me, they won't even know who I am. So just bury me.
I agree with that. Do something with them. Don't keep them at home.
Well, I need something in writing. Me and the kids.
Me and the kids.
Write it down.
Thank you, Chad. Write it down. Now, thank y'all for joining Twin This. We have Chad, funeral director here. And one of the things that he said, we need to jump on it early. If you have children, you need to get your stuff done in writing, even if you don't want to go to see an attorney and get a will. But just have something in writing so that your loved ones can know what your wishes are, even if you don't pay out of pocket to get it done by a professional. So don't wait till the last minute. I know a lot of times our community likes to wait and then try to have a drive or a fund, but we need to really be thinking ahead about this stuff, especially with COVID and things just happening so quickly. We need to be prepared for anything that happens.
Yes, Trish. If you pay for your services beforehand, they will have to honor it.
No, nothing's guaranteed.
Not really. They can contest that.
Well, you can't guarantee cost of cash advances such as newspapers and things like that because you have no control of that. So you can't guarantee costs. And the interest rate on the monies that put away do not usually offset inflation. So you can't guarantee costs.
No, I think she's saying if she pays for her services, like now, if she comes to Heisselman's and pays for her services, you have to honor what she's paying for. That's what I believe she's talking about.
Yes. But you can't guarantee today's costs in 20 years.
And sometimes even when you have it written down, the family wants to contest what you wrote down. It has to be ironclad. Isn't there a certain paper document that you have to make it ironclad? There's a certain document you have to make it ironclad unless your family will contest it. And you could say you want embalming and they'll change it to cremation just to save on the money. There is a paper, Patty got off now, but it's something that makes it ironclad. See, this is why I have to study for my exam.
Yeah, and I've been out too long to tell you what code that. I think it's you're right. I don't know what the name of it is though.
So Trish, that is not all the way true. there is a certain document that you have to get
And
in order to make your will ironclad, because your family still can contest and they will still say cremation is cheaper, give me the rest. You have to make it ironclad.
well, that changed.
There you go. Thank you, Patty. Thank you.
There you go.
Irrevocable with a statement of contrary intent.
Patty,
Thank you.
that's different from state to state, though. If I believe, I'm not sure. Patty might know that. I think from state, funeral law is different from state to state, so that might be different in Alabama compared to Florida.
Okay. I have another question, and then I'll get back to your comment, Trish. But we have another question. Donna asks, "What is the best advice for planning a funeral? What should we always look for?"
Well, with choosing a funeral home, you always want to try to support your local funeral home, and getting advice from the community, your church or friends of who they've used in the past. That's how I would select a funeral home. I wouldn't choose the funeral home because it's big and beautiful. You want to see if other people have used that establishment, and look for someone that's in your community.
Here's Patty. She says she's not sure about other states. Everybody move to PA. Okay, and then here's Trish's comment. Even if you pay for everything, the lot, the casket, and everything, yes, you still need that irrevocable. I'm going to put it up here again. Irrevocable with a statement of contrary intent.
Yep.
And I just want to add to Trish. Tisha knows, for most people, I have a daughter with special needs, so I have a will set up already. And we had a meeting last week. I was so thankful that her school had a meeting about wills and trust. And the lawyer that was speaking, he said the same thing about us. Like, if we don't have it ironclad, and that's why we have to have a special attorney that deals with special needs kids. For myself, I'm speaking, and somebody else that might be listening in. Special needs, it's not ironclad unless you have it. The wording has to be right. Special needs attorney has to write out the document. So if I passed away and I said I want my sister to take my daughter, and I don't have that set in stone the way I want it, somebody else could come in and say no. The state could come in and say no, we're going to take her. So it has to be ironclad. So just find someone that knows and that's knowledgeable. I don't know what state you're in, Trish, but she's in PA. I'm in Alabama, and so whoever's catching the replay, make sure that you have someone that can really, really help you with that documentation if you're in a situation like mine with a special needs daughter.
Didn't you have
two statements up here?
What was that?
I have two statements, and it's both from Patty.
Okay.
She said you need a special needs trust, Tanika.
I have a special needs trust, will and trust.
Very nice.
Now you have a will. The will says who would physically care for your daughter and who would financially care for her, correct?
Yes, I do.
People.
Yes, I have it all written, and the attorney that was there was not my attorney, and the attorney that I had is reputable in the state, and everyone knows Miss Melanie Bradford. So yes, and so I will have it updated as she gets older and as I get older, because she'll be 12, so I need to update it. I think I did it maybe 4 years ago, and since then I've accumulated things. So.
And Patty says to support independent funeral homes.
Absolutely.
I'm all about supporting independent funeral homes.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, look for the people that are in your community supporting the Little League and, this and that, and talk to your local friends. That's who you want to support. Use your local town funeral director. They're a professional. They're in that town. They've probably been there for a very long time. Support them because they support your community.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys.
To answer your question, Chad, one more thing. Even with the separation of the health for my daughter and the finances, she has her dad, but I don't want him over her medical because he doesn't have the medical background. So I made sure that I put that in my will, no, this person will not make the decisions when it comes to her medical care because they don't have the medical knowledge. And so that's in my will as well. So be specific when it comes to doing that paperwork.
Yeah,
I mean, somebody might say that's harsh not to let the father make the decision, but I know that he's not really in medical. So
yeah, I didn't know the story about that until I had my Ellie was born, and the lawyer in town was coming through the alley at work and slammed on the brakes. He said, "Hey, I heard you had a baby." I said, "Yes." He goes, "You need a will now." And I said, "Why?" And then he told me, like, if something happened to you and your wife, the state would step in and put your daughter where they think is right because there's no will. You need to get a will. And then we went and did that, and we did our living will, and it has all those questions you want to feed into. It's crazy, the questions, but you have to do it for your kids. You want them safe if something happens to you. So yes, it's going to cost you a few $100s, but it's the right thing. And that's one thing we should talk about tonight was life insurance. That should be done too.
Absolutely.
And the life insurance should be enough to cover your debt. The value of your house, what you owe in your house and stuff like that. Because if something would happen to you or both of you, that would cover those expenses. And life insurance at a young age, when you're having children, doesn't cost much. So that's the time to do it. Good health and young, you can get a nice policy to cover and protect your family.
Absolutely, and not.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say not only the coverage for yourself, but I have a teenage son who's going to be 16. I have policy on him. You never know with these crazy folk out here in the street. You have to make sure that everyone in your household is covered. Go ahead, Tisha. I'm sorry. I saw Trish.
She said power of attorney, but power of attorney, I believe that ends when the life is over. That's when you need your executor and your executrix.
Right.
I better take my test, Nikki. I better take my test. The power of attorney is only good.
You're taking it.
Living. Once the person passes away, it has no more effect to it. That's when your executor comes into play.
Right. So a lot of people call and say, I'm the POA of my mom that just died. And, let's use the example. They want a cremation service. I'm POA. I want my mom cremated. Well, the legal next of kin is either the spouse, if living, or all the children. They're all legal next to kin. So if, let's say the person died and their spouse is already deceased, you need to get signatures for that cremation from all those children. POA means nothing at the last breath. So a lot of people don't know that, and I'm POA. My sisters and brothers have no say. No, they do. They do have a say. So,
I didn't know that, so I learned something new.
Oh, yeah. We get that all the time. People just think because I'm power of attorney and I'm the oldest child, I can make the decisions. No, not in Pennsylvania, at least. You need, we require at our place, we require all signatures of all the legal next of kin. So if there's 6 kids, you need to track them all down.
Wow.
And signatures. And that's, you have to. Cremation is an irreversible act. You have to put all signatures, because if someone comes back, you can have a problem.
Right. Wow.
And this is that Tisha wants to be cremated, Walter wants to be involved. And now, what if my kids don't know? You know what I'm saying? So they all have to agree as to what is going to happen. Of course, I have to have it written down, so they wouldn't have to agree to nothing. But if I don't have it written down, what would they know? They wouldn't know what to do with me.
Right.
They would know because mom keeps saying cremation, but
Wow. And I don't have no say. I have no say.
Yeah, it gets very interesting to sometimes finding people, like we talked about before, a lot of dysfunction some places with families, and they haven't seen someone in years, and you got to track them down. You can be kind of like an investigator trying to find someone for a signature, but you have to. You got to protect yourself. So, when people just say, I just want a cremation, nothing else, it's still a lot of work. It's almost sometimes more work than a traditional funeral. Till you get all the proper documentation signed. We do the cremations at our facility. So we do everything in house. So, all that work is there. So, what's Patty saying here?
Yes. Right.
And that's another reason I wanted to say too tonight. I'm glad Patty said that is don't put your funeral wishes in your will, because that's too late. The will's read after, exactly what she's saying there. That's why I said just writing them down and your family knowing what you want is more important. Yeah.
Patty, you keep saying good night, but you keep staying. You just loving the topic.
Okay. I know.
So we want to say thank you to everyone for joining tonight.
You need to get Patty on here. You need to get.
We need to get Patty on. Maybe I won't put her on blast right now.
Yeah, because she knows the law better than anyone. I mean, she teaches it every day.
Yes, she does.
She knows all that stuff, and you guys can at least braid her hair. You can't braid mine. So,
we'll find a way to attach.
Right now, I'm loving it.
Yeah, yeah. You have to get Patty on. She would be really interesting to listen to.
She said too late.
Oh, too late.
She's on right now. Okay, well, I just put that in her mouth, but yeah.
Yeah. But no, she, Patty, she knows all that stuff. Some of that stuff you don't see every day. So,
So let me just say again, this is Chad. He works at Heiselman's Funeral Home, and there's the phone number, 610-838-0521. They also do pet cremation, and you can go to their website, cremationsforyou.com and cremationsforyou.com. If you look on the website, you will see information about Chad. He has been in the business for 20 years now, and I want to say congratulations again, Chad, on that. That's a big feat right there. That's a big feat. So, is there anything else, Tanika?
No.
No more questions.
Anything else you want to add, Chad?
List.
Say again?
I thought she was going to have this big list. I was.
Oh,
no. No, sir. We just talk and flow. We just flow.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect. When Tisha reached out to me, I'm like, why do you want a bald guy on your hair show? Like, seriously, what do you want me for? And I couldn't say no to her. She's too nice, But we're gonna get her back to get her license. We're gonna get her to get the test, and hopefully someone down in Delaware is watching her. And
here we go. Thank you, Patty. She put herself. She interjected.
Yeah, and she drives a really nice Cadillac, by the way.
Yes, she does.
Wow.
Yeah. Hopefully she put that in her will for me.
Oh my.
Wow. Hint. Here's Patty's information. If you're interested in her funeral home, it's Schmidt Funeral Home in Nazareth and in Wind Gap. Yep. Phone number 610-759-2650. I'll leave that there for a few more minutes. Well, seconds.
I'm waiting to see if she's about the Cadillac. I guarantee she's going to say something.
Sandra, I want to say thank you for joining us. Trish, thank you for speaking to the community. You're welcome. That's what we try to do here on Twinness. We try to bring you different topics, not just the same topic. And here we go.
See how? Well, if you get her on, I have a good picture with her that I can submit.
Well, thank you, Patty. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Yeah.
She won't stop. She said the Cadillac is all yours.
Aw, put it in writing. Put it in writing.
Oh, it's here. It's memorialized right here on Facebook. So we want to say thank you guys for joining us today. This is the Twinness. We want to say thank you to Chad again. We might have to do this again because I might get an influx of questions after the show.
Sure.
That's usually what happens.
Yes.
In the replay, we start getting lots of questions.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Awesomeness. So you were off today, and I thank you for taking the time and your hours. You work a lot of long hours as a funeral director.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I think is the biggest shortage of funeral directors.
Oh.
Hours. That's my mom.
Yes.
Oh.
I think that the hours, are tough. You know, you work all day long and then you're on call at night, and people die all hours of the night, weekends, holidays, and it takes you away from your family, and it's tough. And the next generation, I don't want to sound old, but the next generation, they don't want to do that. They don't want to work weekends. They don't want to work 81 like we used to. You know, they don't want to do that. So that's a problem. I'll never forget when I was in school, like the first week we had a girl, she walked out of class and she said, "This is crazy." She said, "I don't want to work these kind of hours and get paid maybe $25,000 coming out of school." And she saw the suits and the Cadillacs and the Lincolns and just thought, you're going to be making all this money. And that's not the case. And I think that's how, you know, the schooling now, when I went to school, you worked full time and you went to school. So you worked 40 hours at the funeral home and you went to school 3 days a week. And you did all your embalmings and stuff at school. Maybe 2 people did the embalmings at school when I was there. Now, 20 years later, when Tisha was there, almost everyone did the embalmings at school. No one was working at funeral homes, and maybe a few people, you know, were working at the funeral homes and doing their embalmings there. So it's changed tremendously. Pennsylvania funeral directors did an excellent seminar the other week. There was a young lady from Michigan. I can't think of the school off the top of my head, a funeral director, but she went to Lehigh University, which is in my backyard. And she did an excellent story on hiring in the funeral industry. And she gets these phone calls every day. She started with, "I need that guy. I need that guy." And she said, "I don't have that guy." And this 2 hours seminar she did was about, first of all, I don't know how many women nationally are in funeral service now, but maybe 70%. I mean, Tisha, how many there weren't many.
Yeah.
I mean, that has changed tremendously. You know, so there's not that guy anymore. You know, there's just not that guy coming out of school to hire. And the people coming out of school need a preceptor. They need someone to teach. You can't learn everything at school.
Right.
And the thing with me was I learned a lot when I went to school and worked. So it was a little different. But the problem with the funeral directors that want to hire people is they think they should come out of school knowing everything. And there's no way you can do that. I don't know everything after 20 years. It's changing so fast. And you need to have someone that wants to teach. And that's what I enjoyed at Northampton, was the teaching part. That was more rewarding than anything. But there's no one out there that wants to teach. They don't want to teach the art of embalming. They don't want to teach. They just think there's going to be someone to hire that has experience coming out of school. And there's just not that case. There's nowhere in the country that's happening, especially with COVID now, with a lot of people learning online. It's really changed. So I always, you know, if you have to teach, and, you know, we have to do a better job in the profession. It's probably the same way in nursing, is we have to do a better teaching job of these people coming out, because they are the future. They're the ones that are going to be caring for us. And if we don't do that, you know, what's going to happen? I don't know. So that's why I really wanted to teach at Northampton. I had a gentleman in town here that did his internship with me. I know the kid since he was little. I helped bury his father when he was small. I know them my whole life, and I really enjoyed that. And Patty said something to my boss, and my colleague Nathan heard it and said Chad should put his name in for that job. And I'm like, Nathan, how am I going to do that? I'm working full time now. How am I going to do it? And Nathan's like, we're going to make it work. And we made it work for 2 years, but it got to be too much with the business, with the pet business starting up. It got to be too much, but I loved it. It was really rewarding. The students were great. Made a lot of good friends. it was good. I would go back in a heartbeat if I had the time. It was really great. And Patty and Tony are just great to work with. I mean,
Yeah.
how they are. We had a lot of good times.
Yeah.
And I think we made learning fun, and you have to, and to keep people interested.
Yeah.
To keep going. So I hope you enjoyed Northampton, because I think it's a great school.
I loved it. I sat front row, second seat.
Yeah, 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 and a lot of good classmates you had, and doing great things. We talked about Anna Lynn, and I know
Emily.
Emily. I talked to Emily recently. She's working at a new place. She's doing a great job. Sam, was Sam with you or the year before? I can't keep track of what year it was what, but I saw Liz Brooks the other day up in New York. She's doing a great job. She was from the first class, and they're being a good asset to the industry. They're doing a great job. Yeah. So.
All right, guys, we're gonna sign off now. This is Tisha McDonald, Alternatives Beauty Studio, here with. Go ahead, Nikki.
I'm Tanika Gillard. I'm Naturally Yours.
And this is Chad Hamman. We want to say thank you for watching tonight. Catch you on the replays. We want to say thank you for watching the replays. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for sticking with us to the end. And we will see you on Sunday. Sunday at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Hey, Marit, here's one of my other classmates. Oh, wait a minute. I lost the let me come out of this. Here we go. Marita.
Oh, Marita, yeah. She's down in Boyertown. Yeah, Marita, yeah.
Nika, my sweatshirts, my funeral sweatshirts was made from her husband.
Yeah. Okay. And she had 2 children the same age as me, and that was a neat thing too. I taught people older than me, the same age as me, a lot younger. That was a neat thing too, to have just a different group of people. That was interesting.
Patty, she never left. She said, finally, good night. She said that 3 times. We put fun and funeral tonight. Yes, we did, Patty. Yes, we did. It's not as daunting as some people think it is. It doesn't have to be if we plan, accordingly.
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you, Michelle, for watching to the end. I appreciate it. Here she goes. All right, guys. Thank you and have a good night.
All right. Thanks, ladies. Take care.
You too.
See ya.